so the tired critter didn't have to do anything but a slow walk. It had been a long day already, but Brody would have to wash the bull down, then feed and water him before he could go to the house and stand under a cold shower himself. But he was glad for the time alone so he could collect his thoughts and give himself a severe lecture about Lila. The business of sorting things out was a lot easier said than done. It was impossible to shake that picture of her big brown eyes going soft when they were so close together in the cafe. He jumped and hit the gas when his phone vibrated in his hip pocket. He quickly removed his foot from the pedal and gently tapped the brakes to stop. Checking the side mirror, he could see that Sundance was all right. He worked the phone out of his dirty jeans pocket, checked the ID, and tossed it into the seat. After 5 rings, it stopped, but only for a few seconds before starting again. He slapped the steering wheel and answered the damn phone. If he didn't, she'd try a half-dozen times and then she'd call Casey to get into the ranch truck to check on him. Turning the ranch over to him hadn't meant that she'd let go of the reins completely. Not by a long shot.
Hello, Granny.
Where are you now?
I'm taking Sundance to the barn to clean him up,
Brody answered. Why didn't you tell me Lila Harris was back in town? She demanded. I heard you've been at the cafe flirting with her. Brody rolled his blue eyes toward the sky and then quickly blinked when the bright sun nearly blinded him.
I was not flirting. I was just making conversation. With all I've got on my plate, when would I have time to flirt with anyone? I barely have time to sleep.
That girl is a bad influence, Brody. I hope that cafe sells real quick and she goes back to whatever rock she crawled out from under. You do well to stay away from her, Hope said.
Doing a little judging there, are you, Granny? Reckon you'd better go to church twice this next week.
No, simply stating facts. Her tone raised an octave or two. And don't you sass me.
Did your gossip sources tell you that she's a teacher now and she's only here for the summer?
Brody asked. Hope's quick intake of breath told him that she was not pleased. Are you taking up for the likes of her? I thought you'd turned out to be a better man than that.
Stating facts. And I'm almost to the barn with this critter, so I'd better say goodbye. See you at supper?
Yes, you will. And we will talk more about this, so don't think the conversation is over. Without a goodbye, the phone went dark and he tossed it back onto the seat. He parked the truck in front of the horse barn and got out. When he tugged on the rope to get Sundance started toward the barn doors, the bull balked. He yanked again and Sundance promptly sat down, threw back his head, and glared at him.
So you don't want to stay in the barn? I wouldn't either. It's hotter in there than it is out here, Brody said. How about we put you in the corral for a couple or 3 days until you get over nearly going into a full-fledged stroke?
Sundance lowered his massive head and took a step. Brody got back in the truck and moved around the barn to the attached corral. This time, when he undid the rope, Sundance followed him like a puppy on a leash into the corral.
I'll get the water hose going and get you cleaned off and cooled down. Then we'll fill the tank and bust open a bale of hay for you,
Brody said as he shut the gate and locked it. He whipped off his cowboy hat, pulled out a bandana, and wiped the sweat from his brow. When he'd finished, he settled his hat toward the back of his head and stuffed the bandana back in his hip pocket. Normally, old Sundance had a little mean streak in him, but that day he didn't even flinch when Brody hosed him down.
It don't take much of that wallowing in the mud to wear a guy out, does it? You never knew Lila Harris before she left, but she's a force like you are, full of spit and vinegar, and God help anyone who ever gets in her way. But underneath all that bluster, she's got a soft heart of the purest gold. I was such a fool not to stick up for her and tell everyone in town to go straight to hell. I damn sure should have kept my word the last night she was in town, Sundance.
He dropped the hose into the watering trough to fill it. He stared at the water for a long time, lost in the thoughts of what he'd do if he could have a second chance with Lila. Finally, he shook his head and exhaled loudly. No use wishing.